As a sliver of cold moonlight in a 1793 Paris midnight slanted across the beams of that colossal guillotine in the Place de la Révolution, stained with dark red blood, the entire city was immersed in a breathtaking silence steeped in the metallic scent of rust. Within a dim study shrouded by heavy stone walls, where the distant murmur of the Seine could be heard, a man with meticulously groomed hair and eyes reflecting a profound universal desolation sat quietly, opening his pale, almost translucent hands. He was not wiping a sharp blade. Instead, on a yellowed page, he recorded the tremors of today's condemned in their final breath, even noting a Mozart melody in the margin. He was Charles-Henri Sanson, the High Executioner of Paris, a man who administered death by day and stitched together mercy by night. This is a chronicle of how restraint erupts into power, and how coldness is transmutated into nobility. The genesis of Charles-Henri Sanson's life held none of the characteristic lightness of childhood. Rather, it was a grey foundation woven from heavy family laws and the rigorous art of death, within the shadowed manor known as the Lord of Paris. As the eldest son of an executioner dynasty, he inherited a microcosm that was ruthlessly cold, rejected by society yet extremely particular about professional dignity. In candlelit basements, he learned to capture every texture of pain within the fibers of human anatomy. He was young and refined, once attempting to escape his family's stigma through medical studies and the violin, yet he was forced to don the black ceremonial robe before his father's aging silhouette. This pursuit of life's order became the first incurable fold in his psyche, and the sole armor that guarded his reality amidst a chaotic world. He understood that duty was not maintained by fear, but by a sacred logic presented naturally through an ultimate respect for the procedures of death. If early compliance was the hijacking of fate, then the stage after 1789, known as the King of the Guillotine, was the practical crucible that pushed Sanson's aesthetics of restraint to its zenith. He overthrew the crude execution methods of his ancestors, turning instead to promote the mechanization of the guillotine, aiming for a process that was scientific, equal, and instantaneous. In those quiet nights where only the rhythmic meshing of clockwork gears could be heard, he issued silent commands that stabilized the order of death through the ruthlessly precise calculation of gravitational force and blade angles. This mode of work required no hot-blooded fervor. Rather, in an age that worshipped brute violence, it transformed execution into an intellectual gambit of mathematics. In that moment, Sanson was the most sober and solitary artisan in all of Paris, standing like a marble bell tower, solitary yet indestructible. The summit of power in the eyes of the wise is the penetration of truth. Sanson gradually realized that when he finally cut the hair of Louis XVI in the famous execution of the king, what he gained was a void born of seeing through the rise and fall of empires. He discovered that grand royal ideals, once seemingly invincible, possessed a profound fragility in the face of the calm eyes of the man before his death, a fragility more powerful than any divine oracle. This process of returning from death to observer was fraught with intellectual struggle. He wrote in his diary, "I once believed I was writing history, now I find I am merely searching for a point of convergence within the scarred fissures of memory, where the soul no longer falls." This expansive clarity became his hardest armor in his twilight years, allowing him to face the end with the serenity of a sun sinking into the Seine. The final season of Charles-Henri Sanson was spent in a state of profound solemnity and a silence illuminated by the radiance of a sage. In the early autumn of 1806, the fine rain in Paris fell soundlessly, washing the cobblestone streets into a translucent, solemn gray. By then, his body had become remarkably light from years of inner torment. His voluminous executioner's dress hung loosely upon his frail frame. In his final conscious moments, he requested his family carry him to the window to look upon the grey mists of the Paris night one last time. He closed his eyes and, with those hands that had mastered 10,000 pains, traced a final sign of the cross across his chest. The evening breeze carried away the great genius's last sigh, marking the formal end of that era known as the Bourbon Dawn. Even today, 2 centuries after his passing, the name of Charles-Henri Sanson remains the sole sanctuary for many a restless seeker in the dead of night. When one gazes upon his iconic black silhouette in modern galleries, it feels as though the old man is still whispering to the stars in the damp, ancient dark. What he left behind was not a triumphal column, but a spiritual template of self-restraint and noble departure. He teaches us that even if the entire world besieges you with turmoil, even if your era is destined to collapse, the order within your heart is governed solely by your own perception of truth. He maintained absolute lucidity amidst absolute shadows and held firm to logic amidst absolute temptation. His life was a long, intellectual pilgrimage seeking sacred rhythms amidst a complex and chaotic world. The saga of Charles-Henri Sanson thus draws to a slow close amidst the fading murmur of the tides at Paris. He was never an opportunist who bartered his integrity for fame. He was merely a weary soul who steadfastly refused to compromise with mediocrity. He reminds us that no matter how mundane or fragmented your life may be, inner tranquility is your only true and eternal refuge. Believe that every life has its own midnight diary. A private space for dialogue with a self that requires no outward explanation. It lies not in trophies, but in your every steady breath. May the serenity and vastness of Sanson become the softest feather in your dreams, carrying you toward that most peaceful and expansive shore of the inner soul. Good night, and may your dreams be fair.